Yeah, well, and with that, like in teaching your child this model of the brain and like what happens, we want to be preventative. Like we're going to get upset. Like emotions are real and we need to validate that. Like the emotions are okay. It's what we do with them, And
I see you're mad, honey, but that doesn't, give you permission to punch a wall.
Right.
Or hit your sister. Yeah.
Right. So we're wanting to be as preventative as we can and helping. So it starts with us, the caregiver, right?
So that's where you're getting at.
Yeah. So we need to be aware of, our warning signs are like when we're when we're about to flip our lid. So then we can regulate ourselves, because if our lid is flipping, like how can we expect our child to keep it together?
Yeah.
Right.
Rock Solid Families wants to thank Maxwell Construction for sponsoring the Rock Solid Families podcast. For over 30 years, Maxwell Construction has been a leader in turning dreams into realities, building schools, banks, restaurants, and many other commercial and public facilities. Maxwell Construction has made it their priority to not just build buildings, but to build into their community. So if you have any construction needs, call them at 812-537-2200. Welcome to Rock Solid Families Podcast. This is Merle Hutchinson along with Linda Hutchinson and Meredith. Hello. Welcome back, Meredith.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not Strong Dads. Huh?
I know these guys. I had one mistake. That's the second mistake I made this year. That's not bad, right?
It's the second one you made, and it's also like we're only in 1 minute in the show.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, we've got a really cool show today because as we have brought Meredith on board with Rock Solid Families, we've also gotten to see a lot of different approaches, Meredith, that you take and just different things that you bring into your work that Linda and I like to pick up on. And sometimes it's a lot of the same things that we do, but it comes with different language and terminology and also how you use it with your population. Okay. And so more specifically, your population tends to be more of the younger kiddos and up into the young adults. So anyway, everybody, welcome to the show. How's everybody doing?
Good. Hey, the topic of our conversation today, the title of our show is co-regulation, keeping calm through the storm. And so if you're a parent out there, you've had a lot of storms. And Meredith, you're a single woman still. You don't have any kids, but wait. You think there's storms now.
Wow, that'll really warm her up to being a mom someday.
Oh, yeah, the storms, especially when you get into those teenage years. Whew, yeah. So what are you seeing, Meredith, walk in your door as far as when you call storms? What would be some things that you're seeing that you would describe as storms?
Well, we have our just kind of day-to-day stressors, and what I see like in the office a lot, kids are struggling, obviously, and they're having a hard time going to their parents, communicating what's going on, and rather than, working together, parent and child, to calmly like kind of get through this storm, when they try to kind of address it together, that storm can get bigger and sometimes out of control.
Like lightning bolts hitting cloud to cloud, yeah.
So really, kind of working with the parents and the child together and helping parents better understand how they can navigate these storms with their kids.
One thing that we all kind of have to come to grips with is most of us parent the way that we were parented. I mean, as a baseline, that's where we kind of start. And it's not until we recognize what worked well from our parents versus what did not work as well.
Yeah.
And so it's that man, we have to go through that process. If what worked well with your parents to you, and you can bring that in and it works well, great. But if it didn't work well for you, then it's going to be more up to you to say, I got to find a better way.
Yeah.
Right.
So before we go any further on co-regulation and keeping calm in the middle of a storm, especially as a parent, we want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions and Maxwell Construction for their support of Rock Solid Family Podcast, as well as Rock Solid Families. And if you're not sure who we are, if you're just tuning in and this topic is interesting to you, please, we would love it for you to share this show. We would love it for you to check us out. You can get all that at rocksolidfamilies.org.
Yeah, very good. All right, so Meredith, let's get into some of these words, because some of the words are maybe understood by us, but maybe we need to define some of them. So we're looking at some different words like regulation, self-regulation, co-regulation. What does even regulation mean?
Yeah, to be able to just kind of manage and control yourself, like we need to like be calm to be able to do that, right? It's hard to make decisions and make good decisions, I guess, if we're not synchronized and able to control and manage ourselves.
So when you say that, though, we're really leaning strongly towards controlling the emotions.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, not regulate yourself in terms of you can make your house payments and take care of yourself and all that. I mean, that is part, but we're talking here primarily with regulating the emotions.
Right.
Which leads to, right, better decisions
That's
in
right.
money management,
Right.
relationships, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Not letting your emotions control you.
Yeah.
Even whether it be overeating, overspending. I'm an emotional eater. So when I'm tired or when I'm angry or frustrated, I go to food, and I've had to really watch to regulate that and to control so it doesn't get out of control. So how about co-regulation? So regulation basically is keeping control and regulating your emotions so they don't get the best of you. So what's co-regulation?
Co-regulation is when one nervous system calms another. So, we are very social beings. You might even, have said or like been able to pick up on somebody's energy, like, oh man, like
You can feel the tension in the room kind of thing.
yeah.
Walking on eggshells.
And we do, like we pick up on each other's nervous systems. If somebody's pretty calm and cool, like it's easier to feel calm and and cool with them. If somebody's got a lot of anxious energy and just kind of like always on the go and like can't sit still, like you might find yourself kind of picking that up and start shaking your leg and getting a little nervous.
Good point. That's why I married Merrill, because he was the calm of my storm.
Only on the outside. On the inside, it was a train wreck. Yeah. Yeah. So, when I think about the co-regulation and thinking about one calming themselves and then also the benefit of another person, sometimes we talk about, man, if I walk into my house and my house is dysregulated, in other words, my house is a storm, the house, from the way we kind of look at it, is, it's my recharge place. It's my battery recharge.
Should be.
It's because the world's already dysregulated, right? There's so many different emotions that are mixing it up out through the day. And when I walk back into my own house, if my house is dysregulated, how much fuel that adds to the turmoil in a kid or really anyone's life.
So true. Yeah. So you already are coming at a disadvantage if you're coming from, a broken home or a divorced family, because there's natural deregulation in two homes, right? Two sets of parents and two sets of rules. And so parents, we're saying that you really have to be super intentional about keeping regulated what you can control and co-regulating so that your child feels that calm, even in the middle of a divorce or even in the middle of, a cancer scare or a bad storm, whatever. Like we have to help our children stay in control and calm. But if you're not, so tell me a little bit, Meredith, about Dr. Daniel Siegel.
Yeah, so he has this hand model of the brain that he teaches which you can do a Google search and hear his explanation. But I'm going to do.
But you mean hand, like you can use your hand,
You
right?
can use your hand, yes, to model the brain. And he teaches this to parents for them to learn, but also it's a simple way to be able to model and show children for them to be able to understand. So if we, look at our hand model here,
Okay.
You guys look like you're getting ready to take an oath or something.
If you're listeing and not watching, we're like holding our hand like we're about ready to
I'm not, my hand's not up because I'm not taking this oath.
You're taking the oath.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
So if we look at our wrist here as our spinal cord going up into the base of like our skull, and our palm here being the brain stem, which is what sends messages from the brain to the body. And within that, we also have our thumb representing the limbic system, which is like that emotional center, like that instinct part of our brain, fight or flight or freeze. Okay. So this center, deeper part of our brain, the limbic system, brain stem, like that's the emotional part. Then if we look at our fingers here being representing the cortex, the higher part of our brain that helps us perceive the world around us. And if we fold it over here, so like this is like our brain looking this way. And the front here being our prefrontal cortex, which is right here behind our forehead. And that's where we are able to like think and make reasonable, rational decisions. So the goal here is for our brain to be all together, connected,
and working
together, right?
Yeah.
But we then, we experience stress, overwhelm. People push our buttons, and we tend to flip our lid.
I get it. Flipping those fingers up. Okay.
So then when we flip our lid, you notice our thinking part of our brain isn't connected to that emotional part, which is important, right? Because if we're not working together, if we're not regulated, then we're being driven by our emotions.
Yeah.
And again, like reminder that being even just those instincts of fight, flight, freeze, like survival.
Impulses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, this is like a good way to just kind of learn how our brain works and the importance of that regulation again and being able to control our emotions and our emotions not control us.
So how important it is for a parent to stay in regulation so that they show their kids and they model for them and they almost kind of create this environment where everything stays connected so the child can reason and think through problems and, bring down the temperature, so to speak. And if you are like in that fight or flight, that's what the child's going to see and that's what they're going to respond with or react with.
Right. Yeah, well, and with that, like in teaching your child this model of the brain and like what happens, we want to be preventative. Like we're going to get upset. Like emotions are real and we need to validate that. Like the emotions are okay. It's what we do with them, And
I see you're mad, honey, but that doesn't, give you permission to punch a wall.
Right.
Or hit your sister. Yeah.
Right. So we're wanting to be as preventative as we can and helping. So it starts with us, the caregiver, right?
So that's where you're getting at.
Yeah. So we need to be aware of, our warning signs are like when we're when we're about to flip our lid. So then we can regulate ourselves because if our lid is flipping, like how can we expect our child to keep it together?
Yeah,
right.
That's why you'll come into homes where there's lots of yelling, and that only takes place because parents have practiced it, and now the kids have learned, and that's what the family thinks the process should be to solving problems. And so the idea here is, even though we're talking like how to help kids, well, the adult is the person that has to start this process, has to maintain and regulate themselves first.
So what you're saying, Meredith, is you want us to respond as parents to the situation instead of reacting in our own emotions, being emotionally driven, whether it be anger, frustration, sad, like those are not going to show our child how to regulate, but we have to be calm and thoughtful and help them see how to respond in a healthy way.
Right. Yeah. Like going back to just that co-regulation, right? And like our nervous systems picking up on each other. Again, like if your lid is flipped, your child's going to pick up on that if they're not already dysregulated.
Yeah.
But yeah, being able to respond rather than react.
Yeah.
And like the difference between that, which you kind of already hit on, Linda, but like reacting is more quick, right? Like you are driven by that emotion, which that can, like defenses can start to come up in that. And you're presenting probably like intimidating, aggressive, which is going to be scary to your child, right?
It might change the behavior in the moment. And I think that's what happens, Meredith, in my situation as parent. Like I can get the response I'm looking for, but it's not going to be a lasting change. They're going to, it's behavior modification. You've corrected me on that before. Like it can't be just about behavior modification because we're not going to teach them how to regulate and respond in a healthy way down the road. They're just going to correct it in this moment.
Well,
we're not going to get lasting change.
And be more fear-driven.
Yes, fear-driven, guilt-driven instead of,
which is like what I'm seeing in sessions. Like I have so many teens that they're struggling to go to their parents to talk about things that are going on because they're scared of their parents' reaction, which then I have to help them see like that reaction is more fear-based for the parent. You know, the parent's scared or worried or they're sad, you know, their child's going through something. But when they aren't taking the time to kind of collect themselves and regulate, they're then reacting and it's coming off scary to the child.
It's doing more harm than good.
Yeah. So as a parent, you know, how do you know you're more of a reactive parent? And that would be, you know, in our experience, these are our parents who they're yellers and screamers. They're arguers with their kids. So these are some of the signs that if you're out there listening right now, and we hear all the time, you know, about parents who's, you know, I discipline my kids, and then you come to find out that their definition of disciplining is yelling at their kids, which is not discipline at all. It's an emotional reaction. Okay, and so what we're saying there is yelling and screaming and arguing really needs to take a way back seat so that you can actually get deeper into how your body's handling emotions and what that's doing to contribute to the problem that you might be having with your kid. And so you learning first how to calm yourself down.
So my teenage boy just cussed me out. How do I respond to that, Meredith?
Oh, I love you, child.
When you want to slap him across the face. Not that I've
you
ever
cuss
experienced...
back. Use sign language.
I mean, not that I've ever experienced that before. Honestly, I have not. But like, I know a lot of parents who, man, there is no respect. There is no authority in the home where this child just feels like they can run the roost and say whatever or do anything they want. So how do you respond to that in an effective way in that moment?
Yeah, well, and we'll kind of go into this, but like pausing is super important.
Easier said than done, Meredith.
Right. And like in that moment, when you notice like you're wanting to yell back, like pause. Even it means like counting to 10 in that moment.
1, 2. The kid goes running.
A little slower.
Yeah.
Deep breaths.
Yeah.
And like it's gonna sound silly in like very typical therapist language, but like you want to validate that you see your child. Like, hey, I see you are mad right now. But you're not in a space. We're not in a space to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so you address the behavior and the emotion, right? Like I can tell you are really mad at me right now.
Yeah, you're not dismissing them.
Right.
You're not just walking away as if they don't matter, but you are saying, hey, right now is not the best time. Let's take a deep breath. Let's separate. Let's disengage. But we are going to come back.
Yes, definitely important to come back to it.
Yeah. So
Don't
timeouts, parents make fun of me all the time because I'll talk about parents' timeouts. And they're like, you're putting me in timeout? I'm like, put yourself in timeout. Go and step back from the situation, take deep breaths, think through the problem. What's going to be your response? It's going to be healthy in the long run for you and for them. Don't say you're grounded for life because you're just going to punish yourself. And then bring back and revisit. Now, if the child is still going off, you may have to wait a little longer for them to kind of decompress and re-regulate. But, giving parents and kids timeouts allows them to pause, take deep breaths, and then respond appropriately.
Well, and, as a parent, like, be okay with modeling to your child, like, hey, I'm actually not in a good space right now to talk. Like, like I'm feeling frustrated too. I need to take a minute. And respecting your child when they're not in the space either. So like if you, as the parent, take a step back and collect yourself and then you're ready to talk. If your child's not ready to talk, don't push it. Like still make sure you come back to it. Like you'll have your time, but
don't reward it. I mean, if they just did something very inappropriate, what you don't want to do is send mixed messages of, okay, well, go ahead and go with your friend, or because it's just going to send a mixed message like, am I in trouble or not? Was that okay that I cussed her out, or am I going to be, so we got to be careful that we don't wait too long and we don't address the issue appropriately.
So in my work at the elementary school, every kid is wired differently. And so sometimes you'll get a kid who that's kind of their go-to, where they're going to lose it, right? And so then separately, when the storm was done, so it might be a day or two later, when I would just have an opportunity to pull him out of class when he's calm, then I could actually teach, hey, next time, if you ever get mad again, maybe here are some things that we could do. So when their mind space is more clear, where you can say, let's learn to take deep breaths. Hey, next time if you get upset, how about you come up to get me and we'll go for a walk, around the playground, or so that you're starting to equip them so that if they recognize something's going haywire, you could say, hey, remember we took a walk. Let's you and I go take a walk now. Like even in the storm, you can actually pull them because they know what you're going to do. You're not shocking or surprising them. You've practiced something already.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The importance of connecting and finding things that bring you calmness and regulation when you're already calm and regulated, right?
Yeah. One thing that we want to put a disclaimer on, and that is, and we've been talking about this as a team, is there's not one size fits all solution to chaos and deregulation and storms. And so the way you respond to one child, even in your own home, may be very different than the way you respond to another, especially if the children have experienced trauma. We don't want to shame a child for their emotions or their decisions or and their consequences. And so we really have to be mindful of what's the child experience. Because if, for instance, we had children coming out of the foster care system, where you raise a hand and they coil and back down of like, I've been here before. We got to be very careful. It's kind of like when you get a rescue dog who maybe has been beaten and, you raise your voice, it can trigger something in them that takes them back. So we have to be really careful.
All right. So I have a question. I'm going to put you guys on the spot.
Uh-oh.
Lynn, I'm putting you on the spot.
Me?
So your son cussed you out.
I was just using it as an example.
So after everybody's calmed down, does he get consequences for that? What do you do with that? Do you just say, hey, he was just in a bad mood, so we're going to let that go? Or is there some sort of way that you handle that, or you just look the other way? What would you do with that?
Is it their first offense? Come on, give me some more background.
I don't care if it's his first or
it makes a difference to me, because if it's their first offense, and they were out of control and something really triggered it, maybe they just broke up with their girlfriend, or maybe they just wrecked their car, then I'm probably going to extend more grace, and we're going to have a talk, and we're going to talk through how frustrated or angry or sad they are. But yet if it's a pattern and they keep consistently being disrespectful and using inappropriate language, then I am going to have a consequence, and I'm going to tell them ahead of time, this is not okay. And this is not how we talk, especially to women. This is not how we want to talk to one another. And so if I hear you or see that you do that again, this would be the consequence.
Yeah. And I bring up that question because I think sometimes we think that grace means that we won't pay for what we've done. And we know that sin, Christ does not rescue us from the consequences of our sin. Right. But he does extend grace on the other side, meaning he's not going to kick you out of the family, but you still are going to, there are consequences. And it's good that your kids realize, okay, there's, with the way you treated your teacher at school or whatever, you're still going to have your detention, or you're still going to, have to do this extra chore. So we're not saving our kids from the outburst, and because part of that is the reminder to them, I better think twice before I do these things again. But what we're saying here is we don't cast them to hell for life because of the one thing that they did. We're bringing them back into the fold, and we're saying, hey, we're not throwing that in your face any longer. We're not going to make you relive that every day just so that you can feel the weight of it. No, but we're not saving our kids from the consequences either.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, Linda, when you talked about other things that may be like
triggering it.
Triggering that emotion. Like, I think that's what's important in that conversation when everybody is regulated and able to talk about it and addressing and being curious. Like, hey, why? What was that? Like, you've never cussed me out like that.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And trying to get to the root of the behavior, right?
They just may need some comfort in their broken heart, and so we got to get on their level side by side and maybe close. Our daughter has had some rough situations and relationships in school, and so I remember one day she came home and she stomped her heavy feet, all the way back to her room and slammed the door, and obviously something happened. And so I just kind of went in her room and I sat on her bed and like, what's up? And I don't want to talk about it, okay, well, and so I gave her a little space and came back later, sat back on her bed, what's up? And she was ready to talk then. Right. But it had nothing to do with me, but she needed a place to go back to regulation and feel that effect of calm and comfort and support. So,
and in those moments, like, parents, be okay with being uncomfortable, because it can be hard to sit with a child that is angry or, when they say they don't want to talk, like, but that, again, like, they pick up on your nervous system, right? So you just being present with them and sitting with them in that uncomfortable emotion, there's a lot of power and healing in that. Yeah. And that's what I share a lot with my parents, because we want to fix everything, and that leads to us getting reactive too, right? Like, your child comes to you with alarming news, right? Or like they're struggling with something, and that can be scary, and it's like, we want to jump in and fix, but that's reactive, and it's being reactive out of fear, right? Yeah. So try to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and sitting in it.
Yeah.
Meredith, you remind me of. I make this comment frequently, and I don't mean it 100% true, but I mean it from when we're in this arena that you're talking about, this high emotion. And I used to say to parents, sometimes I can parent your child better than you can, because I lack a lot of the emotional attachment when these kinds of things come up. So in other words, I'm not as upset about the situation.
Fearful,
I see it. I see it just as a logical outgrowth of whatever their behavior was, and I'm not owning it. Where a lot of times parents are deeply upset, or they're hurt,
or embarrassed,
or embarrassed, and so there's a lot of things that come in and cloud their logical view. Whereas sometimes an outsider, and so I say that because if you are really getting your head kind of twisted around, I'm thinking more of a middle school, high schooler who's just every time you guys come together, you're butting heads. You might think, it might be better to pull in a professional, a counselor, a therapist, a coach, somebody who can say, hey, let me just hear the story, because they're not emotionally all messed up with the emotions that you might be carrying.
Yeah. I also want to make another disclaimer about screens. We have been working in the schools and churches for longer than Meredith's been alive, put it that way. So this isn't Meredith, but Merrill and I have, and we have seen a huge connection between screens and anxiety and depression and anger. And so when we have a teen, especially, who is dysregulated, one of the misnomers, and it's a myth, is I'm just going to go and bury myself in my room, on my phone, on a screen, play video games all night, and they think that it's going to calm them down. And so, but the research and what our experiences have been is it does the exact opposite. And so I really want to warn parents, please do not use screens at any age as a co-regulating tool. It's not. It's actually a deregulating tool. The stimuli is so much. It's like a dopamine hit. It's like taking a drug, and it's only going to feed and need more drug to be satisfied. And so it's better that you would take your kiddo that's frustrated or angry and say, hey, let's go out and play basketball, or let's go for a walk. Get out of the room. Help me make cookies. Whatever it is that gets them off that screen and into connection, right? Relationship. That's what's going to heal the wounds. That's what's going to help regulate. It's not going to be a screen.
Well, Meredith, you mentioned before about us as parents that we have to, and our kids should get comfortable in the discomfort of the emotion. And so what happens is we look for ways to just distract ourselves so we can just move on. But we never actually handled the emotion. We never processed the emotion. We just put it off. And adults do this all the time.
Yeah.
I just forget about it, and I don't ever talk about it anymore. But to actually calm your kid down, and then it's why we have to revisit the conversation. Okay, now we're all calm. Let's talk about, so man, how did that feel for you when you were getting all upset about that, or what was going on, so that they can process through, so that they're not freaked out every time that strange emotion comes. So, so temporarily the screen could calm you down, but it would only be through distraction.
Right.
It would be through distraction, and you never took the time to actually process the emotion that you were going through.
Yeah. Does more harm than good. And I thought you were going to go here, and Meredith's reminded us of, we have to model. We have to model that. How do we regulate? Do we come home from work and we scroll? Do we disappear and distract ourselves with the phones and the screens and the games? Because if that's what we're doing, that's what we're showing our kids. And so mom and dad, you've got to model this. And Merle and I are guilty. We will find ourselves tired, and that's what we'll go to. And we've got to be intentional. We've made some boundaries in our home and our family to put those screens down, to stop the work, to engage, to go out, play ball, take a walk, and we have to model that.
Yeah, well, I think that goes back to kind of what we were saying earlier of finding things that work for us, right? And ways to connect, and being more like preventative and intentional of not having the screens, right? Like having family time, or just doing things to connect together. So again, it's easier to go to those things when we are upset and needing.
We've done a whole show on the dinner table, but the dinner table is one of the strongest co-regulating tools that we have, if it's used well.
Right.
If you can sit around the dinner table and talk about your day and share the highs and lows and talk through problems, or maybe a bad grade you got, or a mean bully at the lunch table, if you can do that around the table, you have helped your child to learn how to process their emotions and deal with tough things, storms.
Yeah. And if you don't do it well and explode at the dinner table, you will actually ruin the entire opportunity to use that as a good parenting counseling time. So it's a great place, but you better practice on how to use it.
So what other tips would you give parents to help bring down the temperature in the home when a child is fired up, or to prevent them from being fired up? What would be some other things you would recommend?
Yeah, and kind of like we said, depending on the child, their age, it's going to look a little different. When it comes to the younger ones, being intentional of like getting on their level.
Getting on the floor.
Right. It feels safer to be side by side rather than even like face to face.
Right.
So just
driving, that's what makes driving so powerful.
Right.
Because the child doesn't have to look at you, but man, you could have I've had some awesome conversations with our teens just in a car.
Yeah, that your positioning, it means a lot. And just see like the proximity, does the child need more space? Do they want you to come closer?
Touch. Appropriate touch.
Right. Yeah.
Putting your arm around them, touching their arm, making them feel like I see you. I'm connecting with you. And sometimes a kid will feel so uncomfortable with that at first because it's maybe so foreign to them or uncomfortable for them.
Right.
But yeah, also soft tones, right?
Yeah. I mean, everybody, doesn't matter who you're talking to, we're dealing with this one. Just lowering your voice. Or even, like simply stop talking. Like I said, with the pausing, like there's actually a lot of power in just being quiet and sitting and being present in that moment.
You're so good at that, Meredith. I struggle with loud.
Rescue.
Yeah. And rescuing. Yeah.
It's taken practice though, too. Yeah. I've had to get comfortable with that silence and,
and you're so much younger than me. So, I got work to do. What else? Anything else?
The modeling deep breathing, and I have to share just because this is one of just the neatest things that I've experienced in this field and work. I've worked with a lot of younger kids, teens that have been through a lot of trauma and completely dysregulated. They're screaming, they're crying, they're cussing, and I've had so many experiences where I just come alongside them. I sit side by side. I don't say a word. And I just start deep breathing. Just taking deep breaths myself. And it's so amazing how, eventually, their nervous system picks up on mine and they'll start like regulating their breathing. They'll, like it might take them a minute to catch their breath, but then they start taking deep breaths and it's the most amazing thing.
That's awesome. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So let's talk a little bit as we close up our show today about a challenge. What are your warning signs that you're about to flip your lid? And do you get your, teeth clenched? Do you bring your fist together? Hun, why don't you talk a little bit about how you teach fire alarms? We've had a show on this before.
So, I mean, this is, as you're talking about regulation and then helping to co-regulate, the idea of the preventative side is you recognizing sooner rather than later when you are dysregulating. Okay. And so when I work with people, I refer to this as I better learn my fire alarms. And so, in schools, we teach people, our little kiddos, especially early on, that there is an alarm here we have in our building called a fire alarm. And it's a very obtrusive and nasty, irritating, annoying sort of sound. But it's there because it's to catch our attention. And your body is naturally wired to give you fire alarms or these annoying, uncomfortable. So some people will shake, some people will sweat, some people will flush out with their cheeks and their neck getting all red. It doesn't matter. Like we all have our own built-in alarm system. But way too often we just ignore that it's an alarm, okay? And so teaching people, okay, well, what's your alarm? All right, and when you get this alarm, recognize it that you're dysregulating. And so if I can catch myself on my alarm, if I can catch it before other people catch it, I'm going to be way ahead of the game. If I start to blow my alarm, okay, in other words, Linda sees me clenching my jaw and she has to say, why are you clenching your jaw? I'm already a step behind. Now, by the way, it doesn't mean that Linda should not call that because, it could help me. But if I'm not ready to hear it, it's probably going to escalate. Okay, so we talk about fire alarms. And then a fire alarm means nothing if you don't back it up with a fire drill. And so we teach, okay, you've got this alarm going off. Now, what's your plan of action going to be so that you get out of the building safely? Okay. And so these are things that we practice in the school. We practice this every week initially and then every month, because you never know when the fire is going to come. And if you don't practice it, all of a sudden one day it hits you and you go back to instinctive ways that the next thing you know, you're back in the same trouble. So these are things that we want to practice and we want to visualize and we want to talk about them even when there is no fire in the building. Okay. And so that's why we practice the drills.
So can we call it a tornado warning drill? Because we're talking about keeping calm through the storm. And so if it was a tornado warning and a tornado alarm go off, which I know it's different than the fire,
right?
There's a different plan, right? There's a different plan. And so it fits perfect in our storm conversation.
Well, so that's why it's very important to recognize different alarms that you have built in. So I might have one where I'm getting very embarrassed and I want to go hide. Or I might have one where I'm getting angry and I want to come out and fight.
Good point.
So my fire alarm that I have in the building for a fire has a entirely different drill associated with it.
Good point.
I mean, if I just have a generic alarm system in the building and we just pull it whenever, and it happens to be the same drill for a fire as a tornado, I've just caused problems. I'm sending kids outside when there's a tornado. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the same thing with us. You have to really recognize, oh, I'm feeling really embarrassed right now, or I'm angry, or I'm tired. These are all alarms. And now you have to have, okay, when I know when I'm tired, I know that I have to go do something to re-energize myself. That's my drill. I'll go for a run. I'll go for a workout. That's my drill. Okay. I don't necessarily need that when I'm embarrassed.
Is that your drill, Meredith? Because that's not my drill. When I'm tired, I want to take a nap.
I usually pass out if I'm tired.
So Meredith, we close up. I so appreciate you bringing this topic to the podcast today, and, keeping calm through the storms. Is there any final challenge or reminders or thoughts that you want to give our listeners before we close?
Just extend grace to yourselves. I think kind of going back to what you said, Merle, about like parenting how you were parented, or, maybe you didn't have the best co-regulation as a child, and that's why it's so hard for you with your kids now. But yeah, I mean, just giving yourself grace and giving your kids some grace too.
Yeah. And it can get better.
Yeah.
You can teach an old dog new tricks, even as old as Merle and I. Not Meredith, she's the young one, but we can learn. We want to keep growing and learning how to love others the way that God loves us. And God extends grace to us. Christ died for us even when we were still sinners. And so that's what we want to offer, that same extension of grace and love to our kiddos and our other people in our lives. And
it's going to take practice, right? Like the first time you might have to,
take a long time out or a long nap.
Hey, I'm going to go walk however many miles. I'll be back. But then before
Dad hasn't been home in 5 hours.
But before you know it, you will be able to be face to face and have that pause and be able to handle it in the moment. But it takes practice.
Yeah, it is a practice drill. And we joke about that in the school, that when we would do our fire drill in the school, the first one of the year usually would take 4 or 5 minutes, and kids were pushing each other and shoving and talking. And within a month, we would, at our school, 600 kids, we could get 600 kids out of the building right at about a minute.
That's crazy.
And so only through practice, so that the kids just instinctively go, oh, that's a fire alarm. Here's what I do. And we get it done. So you can't expect yourself to be good at any of these things if you don't become aware and practice them. All right. So
and that's why we exist here at Rock Solid Families. We want to equip you as parents. We want to open up our eyes to learn and grow. And so if there's something that we've said today that really kind of struck a chord or maybe hit a nerve, we would love to help you. We would love to walk alongside you. So please reach out to us. You can get a hold of us at our office at 812-576-ROCK. That's 812-576-7625. Or reach out to us, like we said before at the top of the show, at rocksolidfamilies.org.
All right. We also want to thank our sponsors again, Maxwell Construction and Casey's Outdoor Solutions. So again, thanks to their support. And, we'd go on one step farther to say we greatly appreciate all the support that you guys give us. Everything from your prayers to your Google reviews that you give us, to your words of encouragement, and even to financially backing the work that we do. So we just want to thank all of you. And, feel free to always come alongside us and learn more about our ministry.
Yeah. So thank you so much for listening to the Rock Solid Family Podcast.
Rock Solid Families wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions for sponsoring the Rock Solid Families podcast. Casey's has grown to be one of the largest and most unique garden centers and gift shops in the Cincinnati tri-state area. Whether you are looking to take on that next landscape project or simply add a little home decor to your house, Casey's has you covered. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Call them today at 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.